Hello learners, welcome to NIR Studio. This is live eVidya program of Environmental Science Senior Secondary course in NIOS. I am Neelam Gupta, course coordinator of Environmental Science. Welcome you all in the program. Dear learner, in our previous program of environmental health, we have discussed problems of sanitation, habitation, as well as different modes of spreading waterborne diseases caused by pathogens, vectors, and chemical pollutants. And we are also discussed about various air pollutants. Those are responsible for various health hazards in the area of agriculture, cottage industries, and large industrial and mining industries too. We have also discussed about cancers and carcinogens and their control methods. And during this program, we will discuss the continuation of the program, disease caused due to heavy metal toxicity and methods of their prevention and different kinds of occupational health hazards while working in mines, textile industry, cement, chemical and paper industries too. And this is a same lesson, and this is part 2, lesson number 11, environment and health. So during this program we will discuss about diseases caused due to heavy metal toxicity and methods of their prevention, different kinds of occupational health hazards, and different ways by which humans get exposed in air pollution hazards while working in mines, textiles, cement, chemical and paper industries. And we will also discuss about allergies and allergens too. So heavy metals are naturally occurring elements that have a high atomic weight and a density at least 5 times greater than that of water. There are multiple industrial, domestic, agriculture, medical as well as technological applications. They have led to their wide distribution in the environment, raising concern over their potential effects on environment and human health. So their heavy metal toxicity depends on dose, route of exposure, chemical composition, age, gender, genetics and nutritional status of exposed individuals. So of the high metal toxicity, of their high degree of toxicity, arsenic, cadmium, chromium, lead and mercury rank among the priority metals that are of public health concerns. So these metallic elements are considered systematic toxicants that are known to induce multiple organ damage even at a lower level of exposure, and they are also known to cause cancer in humans. Apart from losses to the environment resulting from mine wastes and primary processing, many of these metals are utilized in products that are inherently dissipative. Example of such uses includes fuels, lubricants, solvents, fire retardants, stabilizers, flocculants, pigments, biocides and preservatives. So it is necessary to ban or discourage the dissipative uses of the hazardous heavy metals, but we can also increase the efficiency of recycling of those materials that are not replaceable in principle. So heavy metals are naturally occurring elements with high atomic weights and densities that can be toxic to organisms at elevated concentrations. And their resources and cycling within the soil, water, air, organism ecosystem involve complex interaction influenced by natural processes and human activities. So sources of heavy metals may be natural or anthropogenic sources. So we can talk about natural sources of heavy metal toxicity, heavy metals, geological weathering, volcanic eruption, forest fire, seawater and marine sediments, and geothermal activities too. So we will discuss a little bit about geological weathering. Rocks containing heavy metals undergo weathering due to wind, water and temperature variations, gradually releasing these metals into the environment. Volcanic eruption releases heavy metals such as mercury, arsenic and lead into the atmosphere and surrounding ecosystems. For burning of vegetations releases metals stored in plants into the air and soil due to forest fire. Oceans contains trace amount of heavy metals which can accumulate in marine ecosystems or marine organisms. Geothermal activities, hot springs and geothermal vents releases metals like zinc and copper from deep within the earth. So next we will discuss about anthropogenic sources of heavy metals. It may be industrial activities, agriculture practices, waste disposal, transportation and fossil fuel consumption and many others. So we will discuss first industrial activities, mining, smelting and metal processing release large quantities of heavy metals such as cadmium, chromium and lead. Agriculture practices also help to increase heavy metals in the atmosphere. Fertilizers, pesticides and sewage sludge using in farming introduced metals like arsenic and zinc into the soil and water. Waste disposal is also one of the major cause for heavy metals resources. Landfills and improper disposal of electronic waste, batteries and medical waste contribute to heavy metal contamination. Transportation and fossil fuel consumption also helps in accumulation of heavy metals. Vehicles and factories emitting gases from fuel combustion releases lead, nickel and other metals into the air. Wastewater discharge also helps. Industrial wastewater and domestic sewage can contain mercury, copper and other toxic metals. Urban development and construction also plays an important role. Cement, paint and urban runoff contribute metal like chromium and zinc at high trophic level to surroundings ecosystems. Human exposure also, these metals enters in human bodies through contaminated food, water, air in direct contact, posing risk to health. And cycling of heavy metals in the ecosystem is also one of the major reasons. It undergoes continuous transformation and movement through different environmental compartments like soil, air, water and organisms. So these heavy metals also impact on environmental health too. Soil contamination reduces crop productivity and affects microbial diversity. Water pollution leads to toxic effects on aquatic organisms and drinking water resources. Airborne heavy metals contribute to respiratory tissues and environmental degradation. Bioaccumulation in food chain increases toxicity risk for humans and wildlife. Mitigation measures like soil remediation, pollution control technology, these sustainable agriculture practices and stricter industrial regulations can help reduce heavy metal contamination and its harmful impact. So next we will discuss how can heavy metals reach in water, air and soil, that is means cycling. So look at the flow chart. Heavy metals enter the air, soil, water through various processes including industrial activities, fuel combustion, agriculture practices such as the use of fertilizers and pesticides and the natural weathering of rocks in the earth crust. This results in environmental contamination. When these heavy metals mixed with the air, they can adversely affect birds. If they accumulate in the soil, plants, domestic animals and humans may also suffer harmful effects, and contamination of water bodies leads to toxic exposure for aquatic life such as fish, further disrupting ecosystem. So this shows that it should be noted that the content of metals in tissue generally build up from left to right, indicating the vulnerability of humans to heavy metal toxicity. Let us study the toxic effect of some heavy metals, which are the major threat to our health. First, we will discuss lead toxicity. Lead interferes with body processes and is toxic to many organs and tissues, including heart, bones, intestine, kidney, respiratory, reproductive and nervous system. It also interferes with the development of the nervous system and is therefore particularly toxic to children, causing potentially permanent learning and behavior disorders. When lead enters the atmosphere from automobile exhaust, tetraethyl lead was added to petrol as an anti-knock agent for smooth running automobile engines, and tetraethyl lead has now been replaced by other anti-knock compounds to prevent emission of lead by automobiles, and lead in petrol is being phased out by introduction of lead-free petrol. Many industrial processes use lead and it's often released as a pollutant. Battery scrap also contain lead and it can get mixed up with water and food and create cumulative poisoning. So look at the table. There are two tables: lead toxicity in the cities, various cities, and symptoms of lead poisoning. First we will discuss about lead toxicity. So there are several in cities. Basically there are several cities, Indian cities especially, those are at the risk of lead content found in their water. Cities like Kolkata, Kochi, Mumbai, Pune, Nagpur, Nasik, Guwahati are at alarming risk of lead toxicity. In case of Delhi, Coimbatore, Madurai and Bhubaneswar are at high risk. Chennai, Ludhiana, Surat, Ghaziabad and Jamshedpur are at medium risk. Cities like Bengaluru, Ahmedabad, Hyderabad, Indore, Bhopal, Chandigarh, Lucknow, Mangalore and Mysore are at low risk. So now we will talk about the second table, that is symptoms include irritability, loss of appetite, weight loss, sluggishness and fatigue, abdominal pain, vomiting, constipation and learning disability in children due to lead toxicity. When we talk about the adults, so high blood pressure, decline in mental functioning, pain, numbness or tingling of the extremities, muscular weakness, abdominal pain, mood disorder, memory loss, miscarriage of premature birth in pregnant women, and reduced sperm count and abnormal sperms in men. Second is mercury toxicity. Mercury poisoning, or also known as hydrargyria or mercurism, is a type of metal poisoning and is medical condition caused by exposure to mercury or its compound. We know mercury is a heavy metal which is occurring in various forms that can cause death than less than a gram. Kodaikanal mercury poisoning is one of the well chronicled cases of toxic pollution anywhere in the world. Kodaikanal pollution is a proven case of mercury contamination by Hindustan Lever in the process of making mercury thermometers for export around the world. The exposure of the environmental abuse led to the closure of the factory in 2001 and opened up a series of issues in India such as corporate liability, corporate accountability and corporate negligence. So mercury is a naturally occurring metal, but in certain forms and amounts it can be highly toxic to humans, and its toxic effects depends on the type of the mercury exposure. It may be elemental, inorganic or organic. Mercury is released in the air from industrial resources and eventually settled into soil and soil and water. In aquatic environment, soil bacteria convert mercury into methyl mercury, and it is very high toxic form of mercury. So look at left side. This is a flow chart how mercury reaches into the atmosphere. when fish consume smaller amount, smaller fish, smaller aquatic organisms, they absorb methyl mercury, leading it to gradual accumulation in their bodies over time when humans consume on how mercury can affect their body. So it impact on nervous system, digestive and immune system, kidney damage and many others. So first we will talk about nervous system. So mercury is especially harmful to the brain and nerves. It can cause tremors, memory problems, irritability, anxiety, and in severe cases permanent neurological damage. Children and unborn babies are particularly vulnerable with risk of developmental delays and cognitive impairment. In case of digestive and immune system, mercury can irritate the stomach and intestine, leading to nausea, vomiting and abdominal pain. It may also weaken the immune system over time. Mercury can also do kidney damage. Inorganic mercury compound can accumulate in the kidney, potentially leading to the kidney failure. Mercury toxicity can create problem for respiratory system, skin and eye irritation, and reproductive harm too. Inhaling mercury vapors in case of broken thermometer or industrial exposure can cause coughing, shortness of breath and chest pain. Contact with mercury salt with the skin can cause rashes, redness and eye irritation. Mercury exposure during pregnancy can lead to miscarriage, premature birth or developmental issues in the baby, and it may also reduce sperm quality in male. When human consume contaminated fish, methyl mercury enters the body, posing serious health risk, and in high risk populations, excessive exposure can result in numbness, sensory impairment and even damage to the nervous system, as we already discussed. Now we move to the next toxicity of heavy metal, that is arsenic. Arsenic poisoning can occur through various sources, primarily from contaminated groundwater, industrial processes and certain foods. Arsenic poisoning is caused by elevated level of arsenic in the body. Cause of arsenic poisoning is from groundwater, which is often due to naturally occurring high concentration of arsenic in deeper level of groundwater, and it is a high profile problem due to the use of deep tube wells for water supply. So this is a cycle of mercury poisoning. So mercury leaching is the process by which arsenic leaching is the process by which arsenic is released from solid material into a liquid medium, often due to the environmental or industrial conditions. This can occur naturally in soil and groundwater or be induced through metallurgical processes. And key processes in mercury leaching is natural leaching. So arsenic can leach from minerals due to weathering, acidic conditions or microbial activities. Industrial leaching also be possible. In metallurgical applications, arsenic is often leached using alkaline solution like sodium hydroxide to recover valuable compounds. There are several other methods too: hydrometallurgical processes and touring process. In hydrometallurgical process, like some process uses sodium sulfide, sodium hydroxide solution to extract arsenic from high arsenic soot, followed by precipitation techniques to remove arsenic from the solution. A specialized hydrometallurgical method that selectively leaches arsenic antimony from metals concentrates, allowing for safer disposal. Arsenic poisoning can have severe effect on human health, especially with long-term exposure. It primarily occurs through contaminated drinking water, food or industrial exposure. Now comes to the health impact of arsenic poisoning. So look at the figure. Arsenic poisoning or toxicity impact all over the body. So acute symptoms can be short-term exposure to high levels of arsenic can cause nausea, vomiting, diarrhea and abdominal pain. Arsenic toxicity can cause skin disorders like skin tightening, lesion and hard patches on the palm and sole. Arsenic also confirmed carcinogen, increasing the risk of skin, lung, bladder and kidney cancer. And so we can say arsenic toxicity can cause cancer. There are cardiovascular issues due to arsenic toxicity. Long-term exposure is linked to heart disease and high blood pressure. Arsenic toxicity can impair cognitive development, especially in children, and causes memory loss and confusion. It can be categorized neurological effect. Arsenic exposure has been associated with diabetic and respiratory problems too. So what are the sources of exposure? It may be contaminated water, food and tobacco, and industrial exposure. Countries like India, Bangladesh and China contain high level of arsenic in their groundwater. Crop irrigated with arsenic contaminated water and tobacco consumption can also contribute to the exposure of arsenic toxicity. Arsenic is used in glass production, textile and pesticides, increasing occupational risk. So now we move the next toxicity, that is cadmium. So we will talk about effects of cadmium on human health. Cadmium is widely and increasingly used in industries for corrosion, protection, coating, nickel, cadmium batteries and several other applications too. Cadmium may enter the aquatic and ambient environment as a toxic pollutant for various anthropogenic sources such as zinc, copper and lead mining, various industries like iron and steel, cement production, electroplating, phosphate fertilizer and batteries. So cadmium contamination of the fish and endemic bone disease Itai reported from Japan in 1960s, where several hundreds of people were affected, was the main cause of concern. Cadmium intrusion to the environment can be abated and controlled by adoption of various alternative options regarding emission and effluents through thorough adoption of clean technology and implementation of stipulated environmental standards. So cadmium toxicity is a very serious health concern, especially in industry setting or areas with environmental contamination, and it is a heavy metal found in batteries, pigments, plastics and fertilizers, and it can be occur through inhalation, ingestion and or even skin contact. So we will take a little break. After break we will continue this discussion.
प्रकाशित करने राहों को आलोकित करने हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
अपना जीवन स्वयं बने हम, अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने।
धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो। धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो।
कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े, वे विषय की लोच से युक्त हो।
कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े, वे विषय की लोच से युक्त हो।
मित्रों हम उठे और जागे,
मंजिल आने की ध्वनि सुने हम। अपना जीवन स्वयं बने हम, अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने।
राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालय का है द्वार खुला सबकी खातिर। शिक्षा परीक्षा का अवसर एक बार ही क्यों मिलता फिर।
शिक्षा और परीक्षा का अवसर एक बार ही क्यों मिलता फिर। दुनिया में इसके केंद्र बहुत,
कोई मन चाहा केंद्र चुने हम। अपना जीवन स्वयं चुने। कोई मन चाहा केंद्र चुने स्वयं बने हम।
When before taking break, we are discuss about heavy metal toxicity. We have discussed about lead toxicity, arsenic toxicity, and mercury toxicity, and continue the discussion with cadmium toxicity. So, how cadmium affects the body? Cadmium also affects our whole body. In kidneys, cadmium accumulates in the kidney over time, leading to irreversible damage, and it can impair the kidney's ability to filter waste, potentially causing kidney failure. In case of bones, long-term exposure weakens bones, causing conditions like osteomalacia and osteoporosis. This can result in joint pain, spinal issues, and increased risk of fractures too. In case of lung or respiratory system, inhaling cadmium fumes, common in industrial environment, can cause flu-like symptoms, coughing, chest pain, and in severe cases, pulmonary edema, means fluid in the lungs. So, cadmium toxicity is a serious health concern, especially in industrial settings or areas with environmental contamination, and the sources where cadmium is found in batteries, pigments, plastics, and fertilizers, and exposure can occur through inhalation, ingestion, or even skin contacts. Cadmium also affect our digestive system too. Ingesting cadmium contaminated food or water may lead to nausea, vomiting, abdominal cramps, and diarrhea. Cadmium can also classify as a human carcinogen. Long-term exposure increases the risk of lung and prostate cancer. Cadmium can affect our fertility and may harm fetal development if exposure occurs during pregnancy. Common sources of exposure include cigarette smoke, contaminated food like shellfish, organ meats and rice, industrial emission and improper disposal of electronic waste. So you can see here the various sources of and pathways of cadmium into coastal water and the ill effect of cadmium poisoning on human health. So dear learner, we must not forget that occupational safety and health also referred to as workplace health and safety in an area concerned with the safety, health and welfare of people engaged in work or employment. So most people spend a large proportion of their waking hours at their workplace. Many, however, often undertake agricultural or cottage industry activities within the home or in the field. So goal of occupational safety and health programs include to foster a safe and healthy work environment. So an occupational health hazard is a hazard experienced in the workplace which include chemical hazard, biological hazard, psychological hazards and physical hazards. In favorable circumstances, work contributes to good health and economic achievement for some. So work environment exposes them to health hazards that contribute to injuries, respiratory diseases, cancer, musculoskeletal disorders, reproductive disorders, cardiovascular diseases, mental and neurological illness, hearing loss. These are such health hazards which are termed as occupational health hazards being associated with occupation. So there is a figure is explain how occupational health hazards is there. So scientific studies indicates that occupational diseases and work-related health problems are prevalent among workers involved in heavy physical activities. So we can say heavy physical workload workers, those are exposed to heavy physical workloads and they are minor lumberjack, construction worker, farmers, fishermen, storage workers and healthcare personnel too. Repetitive tasks and static muscular load can lead to injuries and musculoskeletal disorders and may result in short-term and permanent disability. So unshielded machineries, unsafe structures and dangerous tools are some of the most prevalent workplace hazards. One of the most common occupational hazard or disease is asthma, which we have already discussed in our previous program, and second one is black lung disease. In coal mining areas, coal dust are the main air pollutant to which miners are exposed every day. So we will talk about little bit about black lung disease. Deposit of coal dust makes miners' lungs looks black instead of a healthy pink, and hence the name black lung disease. Black lung disease is the common name for pneumoconiosis, CWP, or anthracosis, a lung disease of older worker in the coal industries caused by inhalation over many years of small amount of coal dust. Although people who lived in cities often have some black deposits in their lungs from polluted air, coal miners have much more extensive deposits. The particles of the fine coal dust accumulate in lungs as they cannot be destroyed within the lung or removed from them. Eventually, this buildup causes thickening and scarring, making the lungs less efficient in supplying oxygen to the blood. The primary symptom of this disease is shortness of breath, which gradually gets worse as the disease progresses. In severe cases, it may be eventually caused heart failure. In some cases, a progressive massive fibrosis develops, in which damage continues in the upper part of the lung even after exposure to dust has ended. Often some particles develop emphysema or shortness of breath as a complication of black lung disease. X-ray can detect black lung disease before it causes any symptoms. Patients who develop this disease at an early age or who have progressive massive fibrosis have a higher risk of premature death. So how do we prevent? How can we prevent? So only way to prevent black lung disease is to avoid long-term exposure to coal dust. Coal mines may help prevent this condition by lowering coal dust level and providing protective cloths to coal miners. Next we will talk about noise, and noise is one of the most common occupational health hazards. So noise can be caused by two kind of health hazards: auditory effect and non-auditory effect. Auditory effects include hearing impairment resulting from excessive noise exposure. Noise-induced permanent hearing loss is the main concern related to occupational noise exposure. Non-auditory effects include stress and stress-related psychological, physiological and behavioral effect. So these are different sources of noise. Learners, please recall noise pollution and its ill effects from lesson 10, module 4 of environmental science, that is environmental pollution. To prevent adverse outcomes of noise exposure, noise levels should to reduce to acceptable levels. The best method of noise reduction is to use engineering modification to the noise source itself or to the workplace environment where technology cannot adequately control the problem. Personal hearing protection such as earplugs can be used. Personal protection, however, should be considered as an interim measure while other means of reducing workplace noise are being explored and implemented. Now we will talk about chemical hazards too during this discussion. Exposure to chemicals in the workplace can cause acute or long-term detrimental health effects. There are many types of hazardous chemicals, including neurotoxins, immune agents, dermatologic agents, carcinogens, reproductive toxins, asthmagens, pneumokinetic agent, sensitizers, and reproductive toxin systematic toxins. So common chemical hazards include eye injuries or blindness, skin irritation, disfiguring burns caused by corrosive chemical products, toxic byproducts like vapors and fumes caused by mixing incompatible chemicals, serious burns from flammable solvent that can catch on fire, injuries from exploding containers such as spray cans, poisoning from accidental soiling, especially with young children. Now we talk about allergies, skin irritation, inhaling fumes, and severe burn. There are other hazards too. So we have talked about fertilizers, pesticides, chemicals, heavy metals as an environmental hazards. So before we concluding, I would like to mention some allergens. So allergy occurs when a person's immune system reacts to substances in the environment that are harmless for most people. These substances are known as allergens and are found dust, mites, paste, pollen, insects, molds, food, and some medicines too. So look at the figure. Allergic reactions begin when the allergen enters the body, triggering an antibody response. So some common allergens are egg white, cow milk, fish, wheat, peanut, soya bean, pet hairs, fruits, pollen, bees and wasps, and shellfish, and many others. So this is the process, how allergen works. The first time the person prone in allergic encounters in allergen such as rag beet का example हम ले रहे हैं इसमें, Their immune system produce large amounts of an antibody called immunoglobulin E, IgE. These IgE molecules attach themselves to specialized immune cells known as mast cells. When the person is exposed to rugby again, these IgE sensitized mast cells releases granules and potent chemicals, mediators such as histamine and cytokine into the surrounding tissue, and these substances are when triggered the typical systems of allergic reactions. So depending on the allergen and where it enters the body, different symptoms may be found, as you can see here. Nose and eyes irritating, throat, chest infection, skin irritation, stomach allergy, and many more. So now we will talk about triggers. They can be inflammatory triggers, irritants, and others. So triggers can vary widely depending on the person. So we will talk about common triggers, that environmental triggers, pollens from trees, grasses and weeds, especially during certain seasons, dust mites, microscopic creatures that thrive in bedding and upholstery, mold spores often found in damp areas like bathrooms and basements, animal denders which include skin flakes, saliva and urine from pets. Food triggers also causes so many types of allergies, and common offenders include peanuts, tree nuts, shellfish, milk, egg, soap and wheat. Reaction can range from mild itching to severe anaphylaxis. Insects and chemical triggers, insect bite like bees and wasps can cause serious allergic reaction. Latex found in gloves and balloons is a common trigger for someone. Medications such as penicillin or aspirin can also provoke allergic responses. Other factors like genetics play an important role. If allergies run in your family, you are more likely to develop them. Pollution and smoking can worsen allergic reactions or make you more sensitive over time. So before we wrap up, we would like to recap the main points in the form of what you have learned. So major air pollutants in agriculture areas like ammonia, methane and pesticide. In cottage industries and large industrial areas, there are smoke, carbon dioxide and oxides of sulfur, which we have discussed in previous program. In mines such as coal mines, workers exposed to coal dust for long time suffer from black lung disease, for which there is no treatment except stoppage of exposure before it becomes very serious. Sneezing, running nose, hay fever are caused to exposure to some substance in the environment known as allergens, not necessarily harmful by themselves. Many heavy metals like lead, mercury, arsenic and cadmium present in the environment at higher concentration can cause adverse reaction after leading to cancer and death. Workers in mine, stone quarries, some industries exposed to lot of noise for varying length of time, long exposure to sound more than 80 or 90 decibel may cause annoyance, disturb sleep, high blood pressure and temporary to permanent hear loss. So dear learners, this is all about all about environment and health part 2. We will come again to meet you with a new program of environmental science. Till then, thank you and goodbye.